beautiful day, just full of joy, full of all the experiences that make us happy and love life. So, thank you for your attention, your time, for checking out our channel. Please subscribe if you feel it's been really helpful, and of course checking us out on our website in the description. So we're looking today at the question of, can stress make you gain weight, right? And so let's look at a few things, how it impacts many different people, what's going on in the body, what's going on in the mind. Body and mind are the very same thing. And then let's look at one little antidote, right? One little tool that you can implement to begin curbing the onslaught, really, of stress hormones that are produced in your body, right? In our work with men over the years, what we've observed in terms of the relationship between stress and weight gain is really mostly that when one eats an excessive amount, when one eats ever, it always is going to create a dopamine release in the brain, right? And so when your cortisol levels are really high, living in stress, that dopamine actually relaxes the cortisol temporarily. But it's obviously, as you know, not a long-term solution or any solution at all. Overeating and particularly what we see is it's an attraction to very unhealthy foods, right? High sugar, high fat, high sodium, and not the good kind of fat, right? So heavily processed foods. And so this is where we can see, the stress response causing a gain in weight, right? The thing is, right, as we eat to suppress or find relief from the cortisol in the body, by way of increasing dopamine release, the body actually begins to develop a resistance to dopamine. So then what happens is you have to eat more in order to produce even more of a dopamine release. And so this is how we see the overeating effect, right? And so that is particularly, the other thing is that when you're living in fight or flight, the body is more apt to retain fats and carbohydrates, right? So to pad the body in fight or flight. And so that can be another reason for weight gain. The other reason also that we see often is, this unusual lopsided attraction to very unhealthy foods, right? When people are eating as a way to self-medicate high levels of stress, they're not exactly, eating a healthy, balanced diet, right? They're not eating vegetables to to mitigate the stress, right? They're eating a lot of processed foods, high fat, high sugar. And so then what we see there is that those kinds of foods begin to develop their own layer of fat around the belly, right? And that layer of fat actually begins to develop its own appetite, separate from the rest of the cells in the body. And so that appetite around the belly begins to crave, the high sugar and the high carbs, etc. So that's that piece. And so let's talk about, the embedded chronic stress response, how it becomes learned in the subconscious mind, right? And it is simply a pattern of thinking and feeling rooted in the negative as opposed to the elevated positive, right? That when played out enough times becomes burned into the memory of the nervous system. And so that's how that's kind of we have tons of other videos about this stress response, how it becomes learned and cemented into the memory of the nervous system. So one tip, right? One tip. So one thing you can do when you have that craving to release the dopamine as a result of eating poor quality foods to mitigate your stress, you would first want to implement a breathing exercise, right? You would first want to breathe 20 times, 3 to 4 seconds in on the inhale, 8 to 10 seconds out on the exhale to calm the body and engage the parasympathetic response. And then I would say to go outside into the natural world for 5 minutes, right? So do these two things, even having a glass of water in addition to that, and calm the stress response, right? Find another way, particularly those two ways, to calm the stress response. And then if you want to have a snack, you can have a snack, right? So give this a go. Also, please let us know in the comments if you have any questions, if you'd like us to address any topics. We're very happy to do so. Okay, have a beautiful and blessed day. All right, ciao, ciao.